Hello and welcome to Grand Cruz Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today we're going to talk about we're going to talk about 2025. As I film this video, today's February 17th, 2025, and so we're going to look out, a little ways and into the future here. And I'm just going to set a very generalized template for what we're dealing with. But I am going to refine it a little bit. I've made a video like this a couple of months ago. Um, concerning what we're going through now. But I kind of want to expand on that a little bit and maybe actually get a little more specific because I've had a few people ask me, about what's happening in the world, socioeconomic, political, like, and how does that sort of play into what's going on? I don't normally get into that stuff. I keep it pretty broad and try to see the forest through the trees. But in this video, I'm going to add a little context to it. I'm here in the United States. The people that have asked me for more clarity are in the United States. So we're going to take a look at some of what's happening here in the United States with a lot of the changes that have happened. And we're going to, you know, we're going to give the astrology some context today. Um, now, for anybody who's been following these videos for the last 5 years that have been off and on, um, then in 2020 I made a video. I don't remember the title, but the title may have been something like between 2020 and 2025. It was looking far out into the future, looking out 5 years. The whole point of that video in 2020, because we were going through a really chaotic time with lockdowns and riots and all kinds of stuff. And I started making videos back then for that reason because we were locked down. It was a good time to really start that kind of enterprise. But people had a lot of concerns and questions. And I remember making that video and looking at all the astrology. We had Saturn and Pluto together, and then the years to come later, we are going to have Saturn square Uranus, and so there was some stuff happening in the sky that I was like, look, we're in some rocky times right now. But if you can just hang in there, if we can just get to 2025, the backdrop of energy is going to change dramatically, and it's going to be very harmonious. Ultimately, I mean, we're still kind of in that transitionary period right now because Saturn and Neptune haven't yet gone into Aries. Uranus is still in late Taurus. But Pluto has already moved into Aquarius, and it is in Aquarius proper, and it will be there. But over 2025 is when we're really going to start to feel this new energy coming on, especially once we get into May and into the summer. And then once we get into 26 and 7, then we're going to get Uranus and Saturn and Neptune all on board, all in the masculine signs, which are Aries is where Saturn and Neptune will be, and then we already have Pluto in Aquarius, and then we're going to have Uranus eventually moving out of Taurus into Gemini, and so all these signs that I just mentioned with these outer planets, they all get along. All of these energies get along. And so they're all going to be working together. Just, to give a little history here, astrological history, since like 2008, I mean, things have been a little disruptive with the outer planets. I mean, we went through a long stretch where we had the Uranus Pluto square. That was, back in, I think, 2010 to 2018, something like that. I mean, it was a long stretch where those planets were not in harmonious communication. You talk about revolutionary energies going up against square with transformational energies. Um, you talk about conflict. That it was there. We were ripe with it. Um, and a lot of people would say we're still more polarized than ever. I think there is an opportunity here astrologically for things to quiet down, calm down, for some bridges to be built, if you will, and for some cohesiveness, for some common understanding here. That's the potential. That's the possibility with all these planets coming into harmony. It's going to be really pushing a boulder and climbing uphill to try to stay in a state of discord through this. It's going to take more effort than it would in the past. So that's sort of what we're dealing with. Now, I'm going to get more specific here with the energies, but I just wanted to kind of lay that out to give a real backdrop of what we've been through and sort of what we're going through now and where we're going. So, this reading is looking primarily at the outer planets. And as you can see here, we've got, Pluto. We'll start with Pluto. Pluto is up here in Aquarius. It last year and the year before it was, I'm sorry. Last year it was starting to make its entrance into Aquarius. It dipped its toe in and then went back into Capricorn. Finished out its time in Capricorn and now it's back in Aquarius. What I said on the last video, wherever Pluto goes, it brings transformation. It brings things into the open. What has been hidden, what has been thrown under the rug, is revealed. Pluto is a very intense energy. It has to do with power. Pluto does not tolerate anything that is out of integrity and out of alignment. It reveals it. So, I mean, if we look at where Pluto was since, I think, about 2008, Pluto was in the sign of Capricorn. So if you think about the sign of Capricorn, what Capricorn represents, Capricorn is a very old guard energy. It's a very sort of how we've always done things. Capricorn is ruled by the planet of Saturn. Saturn is very much about, like the past, and we've done it this way, and we have to honor the past, and, the hierarchy and all these things. We have to have, certain authority, and Capricorn is all about doing things the right way, and one step at a time. And, it's very, Capricorn in and of itself is, like it has its benefits. But when you have Pluto going through there, it says, okay, we're going to empower Capricorn by really transforming that which is past its sell-by date, those parts of Capricorn which no longer serve us in the present time. So, I mean, we've seen since 2008, we've seen all kinds of traditional structures fall by the wayside, and things have to be done differently. I mean, when Pluto went in to Capricorn, that's when we had the financial crisis and everything just fell apart. Like, and things had to just be completely redone. And so here we are now with a lot of these things, and nobody's going to say that everything's perfect, but there was absolutely transformation that happened there. We had a lot of the old guard, a lot of the old thinking, a lot of we took a long look at our history. I mean, I'm here in the United States since 2008. There's been a long, hard look at the history of this country and where we've been, where we're going. That was Pluto and Capricorn really saying, hey, maybe some of these things need to be reconsidered. Maybe some of these things need to be reworked and rethought out and made anew, because Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. Caterpillar and a butterfly, it's snake shedding skin. And so, we along the way we've our traditions and the things that we've held as sacred in this country have been, a lot of it has gone by the wayside. A lot of statues went by the wayside. A lot of the old guard has fallen, and from that we rebuild something new. What has survived from the past, now that Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius and moved out of Capricorn, what has survived this since 2008 is now what we take forward for the next couple hundred years, until it goes back there. And now we can take that forward. We can build upon it. Where Pluto is going now is into the sign of Aquarius. And so what will become more prominent, and what we'll be taking a closer look at through the Pluto lens of integrity and death and rebirth, is more Aquarian things. Aquarian energy rules like technology, artificial intelligence, Uh, it's very collective oriented. I mean, we talk about Aquarius being very individualistic, yes, but you know, Aquarius is a sign that's ruled by Saturn. So when we talk about Aquarius, we're talking about an energy that has collective humanitarian good in mind, right? So this is what's good for all, what's good for the group. So we're going to see over, the next 50, well, it's actually about 18 years or 20. It's a while. It's a long time. I'm not going to look it up right now. But we're going to see for a good swath of time here um, the transformation of our relationship to these like Aquarian ideals. Okay, our relationship to this technological complex that we've built, right? And how does this work? And how do we fit within it? How do we respect human rights while at the same time, make sure that everybody's, people aren't left out or whatever. I mean, these things are all going to come under the critical transformative eye of Pluto, and it's a very slow, thorough process. It's not happening overnight. Although it came online, started to come online last year. Now it's firmly ensconced in Aquarius. So now we're starting to feel it. We know that there's winds of change. We know that newness is around. I mean, and so you could apply this to uh, United States politics. Well, you have Elon Musk, a tech guy, an engineer, who is going through the United States budget and trying to make things more efficient. And there you go. There's that Pluto energy trying to transform a system, right? And so that's also going to, so that there will be the empowerment of that with Pluto. There's also going to be the criticism, and I mean, you can bet he's under watch. He's not going to be able to get out of integrity with anything that he's doing. It's all going to be in the light of day. That's the thing with Pluto energy. It will empower, but if that empowerment gets out of line, it gets out of integrity, it will be revealed. Absolutely. Um, so anyway, that's the Pluto and Aquarius. So the good news about all these energies that are happening right now, unlike where they were in the past when Pluto was in Capricorn for much of its time, it was making hard aspects to other planets. So there was a lot of gut wrenching change that was happening there. But with Pluto in Aquarius, a lot of this has the opportunity to go through pretty smoothly, in large part. Not every day, all the time, but we have an opportunity here to make some strides and really usher in the future that we want for ourselves as a community, right? Because that's what Pluto and Aquarius is giving us opportunity to do. It's going to really suck out the poison from the wound to so that we can have that. Okay, that's what Pluto and Aquarius does. So yeah, I mean, and when we're talking about the difference between Capricorn and Aquarian energy, it also is about the difference between the past and the old guard and the future. And so, whereas Pluto and Capricorn is really redefining, that old sort of conservative old guard energy and transforming it and saying, okay, how do we update that? How is it relevant in this time and place? And so much of it came under fire, since 2008 and through till, about a year ago. And even now, that this same level, I mean, this same critical eye of Pluto will be looking at our ideas and ideals about the future, community. What is progress? What is progressive, right? This is what Pluto will look at and say, okay, you want that. Is it in alignment with integrity? Where is it? Where is it just a virtue signal, and where is it actually, you know, doing, doing the will that is of greater good, right? And this is Pluto is it's about the truth, right? Pluto is about the truth. It's a very powerful energy. It's a very deep, thorough energy. So that's in the sign of Aquarius. Okay, so now as of February 17th, we have Neptune at the end of Pisces, and we have Saturn toward the middle of Pisces, very quickly moving toward the end of Pisces. Within the next couple of months, it'll be, well, by June, I believe it's going to be in the sign of Aries. And we have the North Node right there. I'm not going to get into Vedic astrology in this video, except to say how it relates to what we're dealing with right now. We have Neptune and the North Node right there together. You talk about a time, I mean, we're in, as a community, we have been and are in over the last, you could say the last month or two, couple of months, and for another month or two, and through till eclipse season, which is where then that's the nodes are attached to the eclipse. So when we have the eclipse season in April, the nodes are going to be very much in play, and we're already getting a foretaste of what the eclipses may bring us come mid-April. But with the North Node being right there with Neptune, and it'll kind of be around, it'll be in play there for another month or two, and it's been around, it's been in play for the last month or two. This is about spiritual dharma on a collective. You could almost say it's about it's a collective spiritual crisis of sorts, a great revelation. Okay, where do we put our faith? Where do we put our trust? Trust in the universe, trust in God, trust in, where is our faith, right? Because we're talking about Pisces, we're talking about Neptune. Okay, Neptune is the planet of higher wisdom and truth, and all is one, and we are all one together on this planet, and what's good for one is good for all, and there are no boundaries, and we have to, it's this higher ideal of there is no separation between you and me. That is Neptune. Okay, and it's with the North Node. The North Node represents where we're headed. It's a suggestion point on the map to say this is where your energy needs to focus in order for us to transcend past karma as a collective. Okay? And right now it's in that it's right now it's conjunct Neptune. So what is it telling us? It's telling us to really examine what are our motivations behind our activities on an individual level. Why are we doing what we're doing? And is it really for the greater good? Is it really for collective betterment, or are there selfish reasons, or is there ego involved? Right? This will be revealed, and so that's part of what we're dealing with right now. And you could, if you want to look at it like on socioeconomic political perspective, I mean, it is everything that's happening right now. There needs to be a deeper purpose beyond just getting elected. There needs to be, and if there isn't, again, with Pluto being in Aquarius, I think there's going to be repercussions for that, right? So there's this deep need for things to really make sense, not only on the day to day, like, is this, economically or politically, uh, you know, expedient or whatever. Is that the right word? Um, but what is there deeper meaning with it? Because if there's not, it's not going to resonate with people. This is not going to work, right? So, um, that's in play here. And so, as we get further into the year, once we get to, let me give you an exact date on this really quick. Once we get to, yeah, once we get into April, get into eclipse season, we get into April, then Saturn's going to come into play. Then Saturn is going to be conjunct that North Node. Then the energy is going to move from a place of, okay, we have this greater idea and ideal about, what we want as a society, what we want as a collective, what our values are in relation to that, right? Um, and then Saturn is going to come through and hit that North Node once we get into April and May, and it's going to say, okay, how can we create a society practically that that actually, like, what can we actually do? Like, what can actually be done? Better yet, with Saturn, what needs to be gotten rid of? Because Saturn is the planet of cutting the trimming the hedges, cutting off the dead wood. Saturn is, you think of a, I think of Saturn, think of a tree in the dead of winter. I mean, it's consolidated. It's got nothing, nothing is out there to be compromised. It's all within, right? So we're going to be getting very clear, I believe, over the next few months about where the dead wood is, what needs to be cut. I mean, the process has already started. Um, but Saturn is the planet of efficiency. With it going over the North Node as a collective, this is the time if we want to create that Piscean vision, because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces right now with the North Node. If we want to create that Piscean vision of what is good for all of us, what has real truth and actually a spiritual impetus behind where we go as a collective society going forward. Um, Saturn is going to say, okay, all right, well, let's get practical. How are we going to get there? Right? Like, what, it's like if we're trying to sail into the future using Piscean terms here, water, mutable water, we may need to dump a lot of this extra weight that we're carrying on the boat, right? We're trying to sail, it's like, so I mean, that's what Saturn on that North Node is going to make us aware of. So that's their Neptune and Saturn there in Pisces. I talked about Uranus. Uranus is still in late Taurus. It's not going to be till 2026 that Uranus is going to get into. Actually, in 2025, it's going to dip its toe into Gemini. That'll be, yeah. It'll dip its Uranus is going to dip its toe into Gemini once we get into July, and it'll be around. Um, yeah, it'll be around until we get till October. Yeah, into early November, and then it will dip its toe. Then it will come back into the sign of Taurus for a little longer. So, what I'm trying to say is, from July until about November, we're going to get that first taste of Uranus being in the sign of Taurus, of Gemini. Okay, and it's going to be there for 7.5 years once you start in 2026. So, um, that's a very new energy. Uranus going into the sign of Gemini. That's a big one because look, Uranus in the sign of Taurus hasn't been the easiest placement for Uranus, okay? Because Uranus is about sudden, fast, lightning change, right? Um, it's revolutionary. It's novel. It's new. Uranus is what keeps things moving, keeps things changing. It's what turns the circle into a spiral. Because if things are circular, but if they're just circular, then they just happen over and 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 over again. They just loop, right? But Uranus is what turns that circle into a spiral, so that we're actually have some trajectory. There's enough change, there's enough friction, there's enough newness, enough novelty to keep the thing moving in a direction and not just have us repeat the same old patterns, get stuck, right? So with Uranus being in a fixed Earth sign of Taurus, that created a lot of well, I mean, you just think about lightning and fixed Earth. I mean, you get earthquakes, right? You get just a lot of rumblings, and change doesn't come without a lot of tremendous upheaval, right? And it's just this big thing every time that we want to do some kind of Uranian change, because there's these old, fixed structures that we have to negotiate, right? Well, once we get into later into the year, into July, Uranus is going to go into the sign of Gemini, which is Gemini's mutable air. What a great place for what a great place for Uranus, right? It's going to be able to move at the speed of light. Gemini, there's nothing more fast moving and flitty and just fly by the seat. I mean, Gemini just a little of this, a little of that, like here today, gone tomorrow. I mean, Gemini's very, very fast moving. I think there's going to be, over the next 7 years, there's going to be a lot of technological advancements beyond anything that we can even conceive right now. It's going to be pretty fast paced, and it's going to be something that our minds won't even be able to really understand. We're not going to be able to move at that speed, most of us. Um, but it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very novel. And though this is happening on a collective level, it's also going to be happening on an individual level too. I think a lot of us are going to be upgrading our ability to navigate this technological world that we find ourselves in, that we've collectively built. We're over the next 7 years or so, with Uranus going into Gemini, for the most part, a lot of us are going to be able to tune in and tap in and really upgrade and download information faster than we ever have and really catch up to speed. It's not going to be such a shock to our system. This is very general. Obviously, it's going to affect everybody a little differently depending on your chart. But collectively speaking, I think things are going to come online a lot easier, especially because, like I said, once Uranus gets into Gemini, then we're going to have Uranus in good position to Neptune, in good position to Pluto. Once we get later into the year, into July through till November, and things are going to be running pretty smooth. They're also going to have Saturn in Aries as well. Okay, so that's going to just provide um, one less piece of the puzzle that's going to be in conflict. I do think we're entering a time period, as long as Saturn is in the sign of Aries, um, which will be 2.5 years starting the summer. I do think for the next 2.5 years or so, we're entering a time where things can be, potentially we can make a lot of progress as a world, like as a collective. Like a lot of cool things can happen. I mean, I for one, for people that know me personally, the one thing that I care about, if I had to say this, the only thing that I care about, collectively, socioeconomically, politically, the biggest number one thing that I care about the most is people not dying, having peace, world peace. Like, to me, that is the most important thing. If we get that over the next couple of years, if we can create a new platform for how we live with one another without killing each other, great. I mean, that is my hope. When I was looking out at this time period in 2020, this is what I was hopeful about maybe happening in starting in 2025 and 26 and 27. So I have a lot of hope that this can unfold this way. There are certainly signs that it can, but who knows? We all have. There's certainly free will within this construct, and there are no guarantees, but there is reason to be hopeful. So and that's kind of where I want to leave it with the plans, because again, once you get from really Saturn on out, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, those are the slower moving planets. They have more of a collective consequence. Whereas once you get, Jupiter is, semi-collective, but once you get into Mars, once you get into Venus and Mercury and the Sun, the Moon, right? Then you're talking about more personal energies, more day-to-day stuff. So the day-to-day stuff is going to be there. You're still going to have stuff to deal with at work and with your neighbors and whatever, and with your family. That stuff, none of that stuff goes away. But I think some of the larger backdrop has an opportunity to get a lot more harmonious. And I don't know. I think we should want that. I mean, I hope. I mean, that's what I want. that's that's. I think we could use it. We've been through a time, starting in 2008. Um, so that's what I got. Now, I will say that we have also Mars right now. Mars is getting ready to station direct. It's going to be at 17 degrees of Cancer. It's right now. It's slowing down. It's about to station direct. And so I do think over the next month or two, as Mars starts to generate some steam and get moving forward again, we will start to get some traction collectively. I think right now a lot of people have been feeling really frustrated. They've been feeling really trapped. They don't really know the way forward. They can't necessarily see clearly as to what to do, or if they try to get something off the ground, it's like, you know, two steps backward and one step forward. It just takes a lot more energy to make things move right now. But on I think over the next month or two, that's gonna ease up a bit. Um, Venus is going to be going retrograde. Venus right now, let's see, it's going to go retrograde. When is that exactly happening? Let's see here. Yeah, Venus is going to go retrograde in um, early March, if I'm seeing that correctly. Yeah, so not too long from now. Early March. So we got Venus at 9 degrees Aries. Venus is going to go to 10 degrees Aries and then retrograde on March 2nd or so. And it's going to stay retrograde until April 2nd. So Venus is going to, it's interesting. It's going to go over. It's going to go over where Neptune is and where this North Node is. So there is a theme here with Venus. Normally Venus is a pretty light-hearted energy. It's not really a game changer. It can make things nicer. It adds just a little bit of extra sugar and spice to a situation. It's just really nice. It can make things just flow a little easier, but it doesn't change the chessboard really. It's kind of a minor piece. But when it goes retrograde, there's more attention where Venus stops and goes retrograde and where it stations direct. So anybody that's got planets right around 10 degrees Aries or tracking back to 27 degrees of Pisces. At 27 degrees of Pisces is where I'm most interested because right now we have the node at 27 degrees Pisces. So Venus will be tracking back near to where that node is now, and it will be coming into contact with both Neptune and Saturn along the way. So again, everything I've said about where we're going, where this ship is going, both, we're talking about collectively, socioeconomic, political, where this ship is headed. I think once we get into, again, early March until we get to early April, and then probably into mid and late April, for the next couple of months, let's say, with Venus being around and being of prominence, given that it's stationing retrograde and stationing direct near these consequential planets, I think wherever we're taking this ship, it's going to have to account for one-to-one relationships with people. I think we're really going to have to come to see people eye to eye. We're going to have to find balance with one another. I don't think it's going to be enough to. With Venus going where it is and being in contact with the North Node and Neptune and Saturn, I think we're in a time period. There's going to be realizations around we cannot polarize to the extent that we have. We cannot move forward this way. We just can't. We're going to have to find common ground with each other. We have to. And I don't think it's one of those things like, well, you better. It's more like I think we're just going to be feeling this way on an individual level, and I think hopefully collectively we come to a place of understanding that with each other. Okay, that's my hope. That's my Sagittarian optimistic outlook on things. Okay, world peace and peace amongst ourselves and each other, our neighbors and our family. Okay, that's what I wish for. That's the prayer I put out there for all. So that's what I got. Hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully this adds a little bit of optimism and light into what is happening right now. Because it has a potential to be very positive if we take it there. And that's not to say that we will as collective, but I'm hopeful. So we'll see what happens. And I got to say, I'm glad to be sitting here in 2025 doing this reading now, feeling like we've arrived, because in 2020 I thought, man, what a mountain we have to climb to get to where we are now. So here we are. So let's make the most of it. Okay? All right, that's what I got. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next video. Goodbye.